Good morning, Coach Brian here with Northwest Elite Spirit, and this is going to be the fourth video in Dirt Bag Diaries. Today, I'd like to talk about the response I'm getting for the things I'm talking about with We Don't Talk About Bruno. Um, I expressed in a Facebook post, like trying to wrap my head around these ideas, that I wasn't the best father. I was wrapped up in my principles and my philosophies, and though the words were good and the ideas I think were good, I was more worried about expressing my philosophy and my ideas than I was about loving my kids, and that came through. In my mind, I think the seed was tainted, the seed was poisoned, and so that's why I'm going through some of the things I'm going through with my kids now. Um, and I was expressing this, and these are things I heard before, and my mom said it too. Like, you're doing, Brian. You did the best you could do. Um, your parents did the best. Parents only want what's best for their kids, and they did the best they could do. And I just don't agree that that's true. I can recall many times in my life where, in raising my kids, where I chose to do something I knew wasn't going to be good for, say, my family. Like, I hung out with dirt bags. That's why this is called Dirt Bag Diaries. When I was very young, it was the same. Like, I didn't have to hang out with the kids that I hung out with. I hung out with the dirt bags, and I had the option to hang out with some pretty good friends, and I didn't choose those friends. Um, Coming up, my mom and dad divorced when I was 3, and that was through choices that they made. They made choices that were not good for us. My father became an alcoholic. My mom became a drug addict, initially crack. Um, she would date all kinds of guys. One guy was very abusive. He was a married man, and he would visit every now and then, and he'd beat the hell out of her. And they would disappear into rooms and do drugs like all day long and pretty much leave us to our own devices. And that was a choice. They didn't have to do that, and they chose those things. Um, while we were there, and even later on, like, my mom came from a racist family. Her father was very racist, and again, another choice. I think she married my dad, and my aunts kind of went along the same lines for a while. Was my mom and my aunts chose black dudes, just not because they loved black dudes and were interested in black dudes, but to, like, get back at their racist father. And then we mixed grandchildren were taken around these racists and treated badly, in order for my mom to, like, force, you know, her whatever she was trying to do on them. And that was not good for us, and that was a choice, and she could have chose better. Eventually, we moved to a town, Centralia, and she's got the same people around her, like the drug abusers, the alcoholics, the and let me go into Seattle a little more. Like, when I went over it in the last video, like, we came up in a place where, like, I don't know if I talked about how my mom worked at a place called Jams, and Jams was like we were babysat by people there for a while. We literally sat in the booth um, her whole shift, and um, we saw some pretty gnarly things. We saw fights. We saw more women being abused. Like, I remember seeing this woman get her head split open at the while she was sitting at the thing waiting for her food, because it was like a tavern slash, I don't know what you call it, barn grill is what they call it now, and like blood dripping all down her head. And that was pretty messed up. I remember a bar fight breaking out in the back and a dude getting stabbed, and I remember, like, the story was he got stabbed like 27 times. I remember walking down to the park. There was a park between our neighborhood and, say, Safeway, and the Safeway's still there, but it went like Holly Park. There was a strip of forest. There was a little park that we'd go play out, a field, and then Safeway. And in that little strip of forest, we found a dead body, and that's the kind of neighborhood we were in. Um, our neighbor lady would flip out, and I remember one time her flipping out. She's on PCP, and she was like screaming and yelling and ripping her clothes off, and her boobies were flopping all over the place, and that's traumatizing. We'd have drug addicts like throwing rocks at her window to like get our attention because my mom eventually started dating a local drug dealer who moved to Centralia with us. He left, I'm going to get milk and cigarettes, and never came back. So much later on, when my mom began seeing him again, not long before she passed, and he passed around the same time. So we moved to, man, what else? Like, we had a babysitter who she just disappeared one day. Like, she just stopped. No one knew where she was at, and she had a baby, but she had delivered it in a bowling alley toilet and left it there. So we got word of that, and like that was our babysitter, right? Like that sort of thing. So I guess my mom decided she wanted to get away from it all. We moved to Centralia, but we're not away from it all because all her friends and her family are there. And I told the story in the last one, or a story in the last one, where my uncle like threw his wife out of a moving car in front of our house, and there's just more drugs and alcohol and bad friends. And that's around the time that I started drinking and smoking weed. I never did any like really hard drugs. I smoked some little bit of cocaine on weed, but never like snorted it, never got into it, never got into the meth scene, which was really big around where I was at. But my mom's family and my mom's friend really got hard into the meth, and they were around. And again, like just like from the last video, like we had a lot of thievery going on in our house, and so like my mom's friends and her family would come over and they would steal our stuff all the time, which gave us hard times. So that was a choice, and that wasn't what was best for us. It wasn't best for us to be constantly stolen from by drug addicts and to be surrounded by drug addicts. And then again, that's around the time that I personally started making like bad decisions. I was not doing what's best. I stayed away from the friends that were best for me. And even in the friends that I did have, I wasn't necessarily a good friend. Like, I would have sex with your girlfriend. I would offer you drugs and alcohol. I remember this one kid, his name was Eddie. I gave him his first 22 ounce of Old English. And then I saw him years later working at the KFC, and all his teeth were gone, and he was in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I know a lot of people say you can't blame yourself for that, but I think there's instances or moments in our lives where we can be a catalyst for good or for bad. And just maybe if I hadn't offered him that first drink, he would have went down a different road. Maybe he would have went down the one he did, but I didn't have to be involved in it, and I do hold responsibility for that. And that's kind of what this is about. Like, we did the best we can. I think we have to be honest with ourselves when we haven't done the best we can. And all the way back, we have to admit to ourselves that we did not do the best we can. And then that'll open us up for truly doing better now, because we can be honest. I gave my brother his first drink, and he began to drink heavily for a while. He's over that now and has been for a long time, but I gave him his first drink. And again, you could say family tendencies, or like he would have done it anyway, but maybe not. I feel like I was a catalyst for that. So I'll kind of get into some of the other stuff, like my daughter was being groomed by my uncle, and I found out, and I showed everybody proof of the conversations. I showed my mom. I showed everybody eventually. But the first chance my mom and this group of women in our family had, they took my daughter to his house after knowing that he was grooming her, and also knowing that he had pending investigation against him for assaulting a cousin of mine, which he eventually went to prison for, and is in prison for now. And they all knew this. They took my daughter to his house. They all went in, expecting her to go in with them. She refused. He came out to the car to talk to her, and they allowed for that. Not the best choice. I began speaking out about it. Um, had a lot of people turn against me. Like, they could have made the right choice and said, "Hey, yeah, Brian, we understand, and we want to protect your daughter, and we want to protect our other kids." But what they did was they tried to protect him, and they tried to protect themselves from other people finding out that they knew. Um, and again, everybody knew, and everybody got together for a little get together and went and visited him and put their kids on his lap and posed for pictures and stuff. And all knowingly. And then they went and soon he went to prison for assaulting my cousin. So, like, not making the best choices and not doing the best that they could. I found I'm married into a family that had similar things going on. I was helping on a roof, or I was doing a roof across the street from my ex's family members in order to help them out. And they had a person in their family who had been to prison for assaulting his generation, got out of prison, was chosen to babysit my wife's generation, assaulted some kids there, went to prison, got out, was chosen to babysit again, got out, or went to prison and got out. And on this day was the first day he was back while I was over across the street roofing, and I see a car pull up, and it's got a bunch of stuffed animals in the back window, and I ask, because my wife's sister, or my sister-in-law, is in the yard across the street as he pulls in, and I say, "Who is that?" She tells me who it is. It's this man who just got out of prison for assaulting multiple generations of children. So I ask her to bring my kids over to me, and she does. A few minutes later, one of my wife's family members comes stomping over, and he's like, "Hey, did you have her come get your kids because so-and-so showed up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And he says, "We would never let anything happen." Or first he says, "Oh, BS. Like, we would never let anything happen to your kids." And I told him, "I don't know that because he has done it to multiple generations of your family. And I'm not going to let that happen to my kids. I'm not going to have them around him." So we have our little thing, and he stomps back over there. And then 2 weeks later, this man is arrested again for assaulting a paper boy over multiple days, and then holding him captive out of fear for going to back to prison, right? So I can't say that these people, and again, parents, right? Because we say our parents just want the best for us. Our parents did the best they could. These people did not do the best that they could. They could have prevented, like in my own family, there's, like, for instance, there's been 2 suicides from 2 brothers in the same family over, like, the things that went on in my family. And then after beginning to speak out about, my daughter being groomed, I found out that this sort of thing was going on for a very long time. And lots of people knew, like, people who knew even, like, and, like, said they hated this guy. Like, I had people there were people in our family that would always be like, F this guy, my uncle. And I never knew why. And then through all of this, I found out that they knew that he had been doing these sorts of things for years. And then these people still wanted to fight me because their moms or their dads or somebody they're involved with was upset with me for, like, speaking out. And, like, I made a thing where, like, nobody was going to come around my kids, and I was not going to be around anybody who knew, or anybody who began speaking out against me when I began speaking up. And this made a lot of people mad. And again, even the people who, like, supposedly hated my uncle were, like, against me and wanted to physically fight me over this sort of thing. So, like, we did not do the best we could do. And then, like, later on, as an adult, and with kids, and trying to make decisions in life, like, I chose alcohol at times over my kids. I chose to punish my kids over things that were not punishable. They were my own issues and not their issues, and that was not a good choice. And knowingly, like, you know, you're doing the wrong thing, and then you do it anyway. So it was a choice, right? Or to over punish my kids, you know, to spank them harder than they needed to, or even smack them upside the head. These were choices, right? And they were over my own issues, and I was not doing the best I could. I was trying to force my BS on my kids, and I wasn't the best husband. Even though I think that in my situation, even if I were the best husband, it still wouldn't have worked out. I still made a lot of bad choices, and I could have done better. I did not do the best that I could. Choosing business partners and trying in business, you know, I kept choosing like other dirt bags, and you know that got me where it got me. I could have made better choices, and I didn't. And I really think we need to stop saying I did the best I could. I was talking to somebody online on Facebook about this, and there's these people I know are athletes, and you know, they do some pretty amazing things, but they're saying, oh, I did the best I could, and I'm wondering, like, if say you are an athlete, because we're gonna kind of like try to dial it, right, like matter of degrees. If you're an athlete and you skipped your workout yesterday, are you gonna be today like I did the best I could yesterday? Or if you ate crap or drank and it caused your performance to decline, are you gonna be like, well, I did the best I could yesterday? No, you're not. You're gonna say, I messed up yesterday. That was not the best I could. I knew better, and today I'll do better. Or like if you're on a team, if you're on a team and you party all night or something, or you just do something that's not conducive to like your team performance, and it brings your team down and your team loses, and it's your fault. Is your team gonna say, oh, you did the best you could? No. And it's the same for a family. Like, what's the difference between a team and a family? And I'll get to that in a minute. Or if you're at work or with business partners and you're doing things that consistently sabotage the work or your business, is your boss or your business partners going to just let you make the excuse like, oh yeah, like everything's failing for this job, for this work, or for this business we have, everything's failing. You consistently make the wrong decision knowingly, like you know what the best thing to do is, and you choose the wrong thing, and it's causing failure for this business or for this work or for this team. Or is anybody going to accept that? So why is that acceptable for our family lives, or for our, you know, maybe you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Why do we make that exception for ourselves? And I think it has a lot to do with we take people for granted. We think that we get to just mess up, and since they're a loved one or a family member, that they just have to take it and it's fine. We can just keep messing up and making excuses and saying all we have to do is say we did our best, and we did not. So what I'm asking people to do is like stop making that excuse. Even way back in the past, even if you're looking back in the past, realize you did not do your best. Be honest with yourself. You had choices. You made bad choices. You willingly made bad choices. And I think that's going to help all of us. I'm going to do the same thing. I think that'll help us be more honest today with the choices that we make. And we will do our best, truly do our best, and truly want what's best for the people around us if we can begin to dial that and get more honest. If you connect with this video, give it a like. Of course, give it a comment. I want to have a conversation here, and share it with other people that, you know, might need to hear it, or might want to hear a different opinion or a different look on things. Again, Coach Brian at Northwest Elite Spirit, thank you, and have a great day.